It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Friday, September 15th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that's got some games to talk about, Russ.
Yeah, I saw stuff.
Yeah, we are going to get Russ's report from rookie camp. We're going to preview the games against the Rangers. We've got your poll results, mailbag, plus Mark Recchi in the Hall of Fame for the Flyers. So we're going to talk about all that all on today's show.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here, as always, with Russ Cohen, who's on all your favorite social media apps at Sportsology. We as a show are on Instagram and Threads and Blue Sky at Locked On Flyers as well. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. You can subscribe or follow us for free over on YouTube or on the SiriusXM app. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, subscribe to get our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, amidst the beginning of rookie camp and everything surrounding that, we got another great announcement from the Flyers in that they are naming Mark Recchi to the Flyers Hall of Fame this year. On January 27th, he'll be inducted. The Flyers are playing the Bruins, another one of Recchi's former teams, which they always do that sort of thing. Love to see that. So it's kind of meaningful for both teams. Hadn't really thought about it, but they haven't inducted anybody into the Flyers Hall of Fame since the 21-22 season. So it's good to see that come back.
Yeah, it was. We talked about it up in the press box last year that it was kind of odd that nothing was happening. I think Recchi was a long overdue one. I don't know why he was sort of like forgotten about. Maybe it was because he's been great with multiple
other teams. Yeah.
2 or 3, maybe that. I don't know, but he's certainly deserving.
Yeah, he's in the Hockey Hall of Fame, well-deserved induction there. Of course, he did play for the Flyers in 2 different stints, totaling 10 of his, I believe it was like over 20-year career that he had. Pretty prolific, was of course on that crazy eighth line with Lindros and Brent Fedek, who was number 18 on that line. And despite his time with other teams, I think there's still just a warm feeling in Flyers fans' hearts for him.
Well, it should be. Put up a lot of points, man. He was a nuisance to a lot of other teams. A prolific scorer, really. Just a heck of a player.
Yeah. Yeah. So very thrilled for him. Thrilled for us that we get to experience another Flyers Hall of Fame ceremony. He'll be the 28th member of that group. Looking forward to that in January. In the meantime, the Flyers also had a Meet the Team event for season ticket holders, which was a lot of fun, according to my mother, who went as a season ticket holder. Different tables for autographs, and people got to really talk to the players. It's definitely a little interesting in terms of who was actually there and the groupings at the different tables. And I just kept wondering about some of that stuff. Like you look at table 5, and that was like the goaltenders plus Nick Seeler, except not Carter Hart. Carter Hart was at a separate table with some of the vets, but you had like Cal Peterson, Felix Sandstrom, and Sam Ersson all sitting at the same table together. Which
they're all kind of like the new guys, the younger guys, the lesser used guys.
Yeah,
that other echelon. So I get it.
I know, it was just kind of funny, but apparently it was a good time and everybody was nice, and the players got to show off the new jerseys because they were all wearing them, which was super cool as well.
Although our listeners saw it off already, anyhow, with the Tyson Forster interview from last week at the Rookie Showcase, they saw that.
That is true. Meanwhile, we had the start of rookie camp yesterday, and Russ, you were there. What was the vibe at camp?
And the vibe was good. There was a lot of skating, a lot of work to be done, 3-on-3s, breakouts, scrimmage. nothing out of the ordinary. I think there was a looseness there, not from like saying that it wasn't being held right. That's not what I mean. A looseness just from the players, like knowing each other and just feeling good about things. Guys were working on a lot of different things, even when they were taking timeouts. There were guys like Brink was still like fiddling around with stick work and stuff, and that all that's good to see. So from that standpoint, it was pretty good. I did see good. I did see bad. And I'm willing to talk about it.
Yeah. So who was leading everything at camp?
It's pretty much Tyson Forster's camp. Like he's the big guy there. Denoye's another big guy. But those two guys were having a lot of fun. They were on the same 3-on-3 team, really having a good time. They've had NHL time and had that little bit of a playoff run with Lehigh. So those are two of your more established guys. So that's expected.
Any other standouts?
Yeah, I did like Chernik. I like the way he was making some passing plays. His skating looks improved. He looked good. Emil Andre's wrist shot really has a lot on it now. I think he put on maybe 5 pounds more of muscle. So he's really physically fit. The skating's good on him. I just think he just needs, just a little more time. I don't think he's going to make the team right out of camp. And I'm not sure I'd want him to. Ethan Sampson looked good passing. That's when I really noticed him. Denver Barkey looked good. We actually were finally starting to see him. His passing was good. His skating was really good. Wisdom and Brink were another combination that we could see maybe in the game because they were looking good together. So those are two other of the veteran guys.
Cool. And who was like running the drills and stuff? Like who was the coaching lead at camp?
Yeah, I
Was it
wasn't paying
Lappy?
attention to that. I'm sorry. That
No,
part
that's cool.
Yeah, that part wasn't as important to me as actually watching the guys, So
No, fair enough. Fair enough.
I was intently watching the players. Yeah, and on the not so great side, like Samu Tuamala, like if you give him one-timers, just ask him to start firing them, he looks great, right? But to be fair, a lot of players can do that. His skating does look good, but when he was in 3-on-3, he was a little late in presenting his stick. If like someone was trying to set him up with a play, maybe it's just not knowing the players that well. Maybe it's just, but I did notice that he was having a little trouble with that. He was working with a backhand that was a little late, so that wasn't good. I mean, his one-timer is great, but I think he needs more of an arsenal. And his wrist shot's pretty good, but he needs more of an arsenal if he's going to really be a scorer at the NHL level. So I feel like he has a lot of work to do. I feel like the level he played at, those 26 goals were easy to get. That's my feeling. So that's somebody who's going to have to really work on that. He was the only guy that I really felt like needed some work. Now J.R. Avon was not out on the ice, so we don't know if he'll play or not. We don't
Interesting.
We don't know all the reasons yet for that. So that's the one guy we don't know about. And then otherwise, I would say, it's a pretty talented group. They don't get to have the college guys with them, unfortunately. But there's a decent amount to work with there. And I feel like, while it's not their most talented group that we've ever seen. Oh, and Bonk, look, I'll tell you the pluses and minuses. There were some minuses with Bonk. Like the skating, puck retrieval, all that's a plus. He does not have a great one-timer. Like he needs to work on that. His first pass is great, but his shot's not great. And so that's something where I feel like he's going to have to work on that. Same way that we said about Cam York. Bonk's got all those other things down that you like, but that's one of the things that was standing out as not being great.
Got it. Well, I think that, day one is always a little bit rough around the edges until everybody kind of gets the hang of things. And they kind of sort out what they're planning to do for the games, which we will talk about coming up next.
Football season's here, and FanDuel is giving you a chance to win all season long. Because right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, and you'll get bonus bets for every victory. You can use your bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Take some time to visit FanDuel and include money lines, props, etc. around your team.
Next week on the show, a reminder, we're back to 5 days a week because hockey is here. So on Monday, we're going to recap the rookie series games. Later in the week, we're going to look at training camp, which is kicking off. And speaking of the vets, we saw that Cam Atkinson and Sean Couturier were back on the ice skating, and from many reports, they were looking pretty good out there.
Yeah, I mean, they're just goofing around. They're scrimmaging. I put 0 into that. That's why I showed no videos.
Yeah.
Because we need to see contact. And actually, and other guys agreed with me on this, we need to see travel. Like with someone like Sean Couturier with a bad back, travel is sometimes an issue. So that's what we need to see. We need to see contact and travel.
Yeah, we will keep an eye on that, but it's always good to see them skating regardless.
Yeah.
Also, in some of the, interviews that were being done, I have to pull this out because it was mentioned that Tyson Forster lived with Joel Farabee over the summer.
Everybody lived.
Right. So apparently Wade Allison is also living in Joel's basement, which if you had to pick any Philadelphia Flyer to be living in someone's basement, it's Wade Allison. I mean, hands down, right?
No question. And other guys were coming in and out in town. We're staying at his place. So I could imagine there's guys from like the NTDP and stuff staying there. Yeah.
Yeah. Love to see that.
He's kicking.
Yeah. All right. Getting to the rookie series this weekend. Of course, we've got a game tonight and a game tomorrow. What do you think the expectations are going into these games overall?
Well, I mean, my first expectation is anytime I go up to Lehigh, I get to go to White Castle, and being a former New Yorker, that's a good thing for me. As far as the expectation for the game, Bobby Brink is under the spotlight in the sense that Ian LePerrier is expecting a lot. He's going to get a lot of ice time. He wants to see him perform. And so that's something where and Brink says he's healthy now. So, really fully healthy, could really train. So we'll see. We'll see what this Bobby Brink looks like. That's a big thing. Forster is going to certainly be a force. Forster, he doesn't expect to be back. Like he thinks he's going to make the team, but you don't know. Right? I mean, that's LePerrier's hope. But when I asked him about Elliot Denoyer, he actually said all around he is the closest to the NHL, to be honest. And that is because of his all-around game, the way he, back checks and does other things.
Right.
Even John Tortorella noticed an improvement in that when he came up, and I noticed an improvement in it last year. And of course, LePerrier loves him because he's French Canadian. But he laughed about that. But the point is, I know everybody's focused on Tyson Forster, and I know, but LePerrier did make a good point. Like he said, look, everything's nice about scoring and everything, but when you come up, you got to do other things. And Forster, he thinks is ready to do it. He just thinks Denoyer is more ready in the sense that he's been doing that for a little bit, longer. And I get it.
Well, I believe that I did say on a recent show of who might be the surprise to make the team or be on that line. And I picked Elliot Denoyer for that very reason, that I feel like his game is more complete overall. Yes. And that his vision is, I think, something that a lot of the other prospects just don't have. Like he just sees the game in a way that some of the other guys don't. And so, I think that he will have a lot to prove in terms of what he can do at these games. And, I'm very much looking forward to Ethan Sampson's play, just kind of getting a gut check at where he is relative to the competition around him. I think is important just because it feels like he was a little isolated in junior hockey from, like competition in terms of that. So that's important to me. As far as like the games overall, I don't think that the scores matter in the grand scheme of things, but I do think that they matter to these players.
It matters to the players, sure. But when I write up these reports, it's not about who wins or loses. It's about how guys are being used, how they play, who they're playing with, and what you see out of them. And really, even then, that's only a part of it. The other thing is, how do they look since the last time I saw them in game action?
Right.
That's really the big thing. And again, some people might say, well, it's a small sample and it's at the beginning. Yeah, it is, but life's tough. I mean, the team's working off of this too, and rookie camp's not very long. So they don't have, this is it. These 2 games is your spotlight. And these players know it. So, for anybody out there that thinks that, hey, it's unfair or whatever, this is just the way the world is, man. They want this chance. These players are hungry for it. But like I said, I fear there's not a lot of real spots open for the young guys. There's a few.
Right. And I think that if there's any question mark there, in terms of getting additional opportunities beyond those 2 games, it's really just the first, maybe the second preseason game that a lot of these guys will have, and that'll depend on how the
Yes.
roster goes in terms of who
And then
gets into
after
those
that, they start
lineups.
getting shipped. Yeah.
Right. And so I think that, to even get to the point where there's a question and there's a possibility there is going to be rough given how tight the Flyers roster is. Like if there's just even the slightest question, they're going to send them off because there's no point unless there's a chance that they'll make the lineup.
Yeah, the only thing I feel like the Flyers are missing are maybe more PTOs. Now, I think Arizona went crazy with like 11, which is the most I've
Mhm.
ever heard of in my life, and it's too many. But I do feel like the Flyers are missing out not having more PTOs. I just feel like that could really help them. It seems like they're limiting themselves, and I think that's a John Tortorella function, honestly.
Yeah, and in fact, we did learn that Max Wellman signed a PTO with the Devils
Yep.
this week. So very mixed feelings about that. Very glad he's getting that
Yeah, I'm
opportunity
glad
because
for him.
I think he deserves it. He deserves a shot at the NHL somewhere. But the fact that it's with the Devils is extremely hurtful to me personally. So I think that, as we know, my Devils feelings. But good for him, honestly. But as far as the scores and what we're looking for here, yeah, I think these 2 rookie series games are going to be extremely important for these guys.
It's on
And
the
if there's
report card.
any,
It's gonna be.
yeah, it's going to be. And we always talk about having large sample sizes to work with, but like you said, like this is it, whether they like it or not. So we don't have a choice here. They don't have a choice here. They got to make every minute count and kind of balance, what kind of work ethic they have in practice with these games.
Well, I mean, basically what it is if you go back to the last rookie camp after, after the draft, that's when they're supposed to get the information, learn a few things there, and let's see what you do over the summer. Did you listen to us over the summer? Did you meet or exceed what our expectations were for you over the summer? And this is the way to show what they did over the summer is now in these games. Like this is where it all culminates.
Yeah, I think so too. I am very curious about the goaltending for these
Yeah.
rookie games because we have Carson Bjarnason, who I'm super excited to see in net, and then we have Nolan Meyer as your AHL goaltender in these, and I don't know if they're going to have each of them take a game or split both games. But I do think there's a lot of pressure, honestly, on Bjarnason, even though there's really like no chance he's sticking around with the Flyers for this season.
No,
It's just still a lot of pressure on him though.
I don't feel that way. Or let's just say it like this. I don't think he feels that way. I think he's looking at it like he's thrilled to be there. He was thrilled to be a Flyer. He's thrilled to be in this camp. He had a good summer. He talked about training and stuff. We'll have some of that audio. He really worked hard on and off the ice. There's a lot of things that goaltenders can do that other players can't to help them off the ice, and the Flyers are really working with their goalies on that. So we'll see how Bjarnason looks and might notice some of that and see if it's in play. And same with Mayer. Although, if you ask me, does Mayer get the same kind of attention as Bjarnason? I'm not sure. I really kind of wonder about that. But because Bjarnason got a lot of texts and stuff to see how I'm not saying Mayer's overlooked because he played with the Phantoms, but
Right.
you know how it is. If you're a top prospect, I feel like they're getting a little more hands on with that guy. But either way, it's good. They're working with. They definitely worked hard with the goalies over this summer. Communication's a lot better than it used to be. I feel like it was like way down what it could be. And players really, especially young players, when they're sort of trying to find their way in an organization, anytime someone reaches out with a text or something like that, they feel like they're a part of something, and it's important.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see how they do. We'll see how the skaters do this weekend. We'll report back from those games on the Monday show. And in the meantime, we have our last summer poll results to talk about, which was the first goal of the rookie series choice, plus a few of your mailbag questions coming up next. All right, our last summer poll on who was going to score the first goal in the rookie series. Tyson Forster won this one in a runaway with 72% of the vote. Kind of matches up with what you're talking in terms of him being the leader of this camp, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's going to get a lot of ice time, all the power play time. He's not afraid to shoot, man.
Yeah, J.R. Avon was in second with 11%. We don't know, obviously, what's going on with
No,
him.
we don't.
Yeah, but Elliot Denoye was in third place with 8%, and Alexis Gendron 7%, Ethan Sampson with 2%. I think the couple other votes that came in were for Emil Andre and Zaid Wisdom.
I think Andre Wisdom looked good. Wisdom actually looked good with Brink. That could be another combination that we see in the game. Andre, I do think there's a chance, he can score a goal or two.
Yeah, I think so. All right. Well, we have a couple mailbag questions to get to. The first one coming from Chaz Bear 10. With the cap space that will be accrued by the trade deadline, assuming they make some deals, I guess, should Danny Briere take on a cap dump from another team to gain more draft capital?
Yes, always. The reason you have cap space as a bad team is to do just that. And you do the best you can with that, and the more picks, the better.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that especially if it's on an expiring contract, or even with just one extra year left, I don't think you want to take on a cap dump that's beyond that at this point. But if it's the remainder of the season plus up to 1 year, I think that's a reasonable thing for the Flyers to take on in order to get these assets. I think in this upcoming draft, just having the most opportunity to make top picks is going to be very important for this rebuild. Marty Martinez wants to know from you, Russ, when you're doing evaluations throughout the year, how many prospects do you or can you get out to evaluate in person? And which players do you specifically go to see? Do you look more at the guaranteed top picks versus first round bubble guys?
Yeah, I'd say it's between 75 and over 100. As an example, at the USHL tournament, we see every team. So technically, I'm seeing probably 75 guys just in the 4 days I'm there, because we're watching 3-4 games a day, and it's every team in the league, and we're seeing every team twice. So that's something. And again, now, can I watch every minute of every one of those games? No, sometimes I have to take 2 periods in one game, 1 period in another game if there's a little bit of overlap. But that's a lot of players to see. And then if I go to, another tournament, it's the same thing. So that's where I get that number from. I see, like, if you want to talk about like the top 32, I'd say I see maybe 17 of those guys live. If I go to like a top prospects game, then I probably see all 32. But again, it's not all in like full game mode because it's in the top prospect game. And while they're trying really hard, it's a little different. So,
because nobody wants to get hurt in those situations.
Right. There's guys in the dub and the queue that I'm not seeing unless it's a World Junior year where I can cover. So those things vary a little bit for me. But I see everything on video.
Yeah, I think, for me, the big difference between the in-person and the video, which is really important, is seeing a lot of the play away from the puck.
Right.
I think that, what they don't put on camera can be very telling. And you can also get a better sense of speed, like especially on like back checking, how fast does some of these guys, get back, and what's their two-way game like. To me, that's like the things that I'm really looking for when I see prospects or just players in general, right?
Yeah,
when you see it in person, there's always better perspective.
And I count preseason as that too, because sometimes there's guys in the OHL and such that are playing those first 2 preseason games and get sent back
Right.
because they're playing against NHL players or close to NHL players. So I count those games too.
Absolutely. All right, we have one more question also related to the cap. Ryan wants to know, seems like a lot of teams have little to no cap space to sign players they could probably use. Is the salary cap more of a hurt to any one team more than it is a help for the league? I suppose the intention is to prevent dynasties like in the late 70s and early 80s.
I don't think it's to prevent dynasties. I think, honestly, just owners were overspending, and it was to the detriment of themselves. The cap saved some certain teams of, spending themselves out of contention. The Rangers and Flyers are 2 teams that I can think of right off the top of my head that used to do that. So
Yeah.
that's
That
one.
suitor offer sheet is going to live in infamy for
Yeah.
all time.
Yeah. So I think that's a big thing. Just to clarify too on the prospect thing, when I'm seeing them preseason, obviously those are first year prospects, but I still look at those guys too for other things that I write about. But yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think they're trying to prevent dynasties. You know how you don't, if you draft well and develop well and have a good couple, every year have a good couple of free agent signings, you could build a dynasty. Dynasties can still be built through the draft and otherwise, but it's a combination of everything. Just because you have high draft picks doesn't mean you're going to be building a dynasty, even if you have 4 or 5 great draft picks. You need more than that. We've seen that. We've seen that with teams like Edmonton and such. So we're kind of learning those lessons because there are other sports where you literally can build through the draft. But like as an example, the NFL ones, sometimes you're getting guys that are 23, 24 coming out of that draft. So,
Yeah.
that's a big difference. The age difference is a massive thing. You do so much projecting in an NHL one. So I think I don't think they're trying to prevent them. I just think it's really hard in this era.
Yeah. And what is a dynasty in the NHL? Is it 2 cups? Is it 3 cups? Because that's all we've gotten,
Yeah,
right? In the past little while.
back to back is close. If you get 3, it's definitely a dynasty. 3 in a row. I
Mhm.
cautioned that the ones like if it's 3 in 5 years, I don't know if that's really a dynasty. If you win 2 in a row and maybe 3 out of 4, I'd probably still give it to you.
Yeah, I think the Tampa Bay Lightning question kind of sits out there
It
in
does.
terms of are they a dynasty or not. All right. Well, wrapping up the week with a Flyers fun thing. Always a good sign when they're putting down the ice in the
Oh
big
yeah.
arena. The Flyers have done that this week with painting the new logos and lines and
I
putting the
watched a
ads
lot of them. I didn't watch
down.
just the Flyers. I have to be honest. This is one of my favorite times of the year now that they put this down.
Yep.
Just the way they do it, the painting, the precision, the technology. This is
It's
not
so
easy to
cool.
do. It is.
Yeah, it's super cool how they do it, and the Flyers posted about it, so the link to that will
They
be
put the
in.
double logo back, which is something
Yeah.
that Snyder always wanted. It was taken away, and fans
Yep.
immediately, noted that, so they got that back.
Yeah, really excited about the look of the Wells Fargo Center this season. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. That will do it for today's show. Of course, Monday on the show, we'll recap the rookie series games. Plus, we'll have our new nemesis of the week. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So if you've got a mailbag question you want us to answer, you can tweet us at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail or comment over on YouTube. I'm Rachel. I'm on the app formerly known as Twitter at @rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Have a great weekend and let's go Flyers.